Hey everyone, we're here at Midwest Dreaming. I'm with Colin, the founder of Haka Products. Colin, what can you tell me about your product?
So what we basically built on the Salesforce platform is a customer intelligence software. We help salespeople show up prepared for customer meetings with an understanding of who the buyer is, who the customer is, and what their business priorities are so that they can better communicate value.
So your product essentially gives you intelligence about who you're going to go meet with and who they are, what industry they're in, what segment, stuff like that, right?
You got it.
And this bolts right into the Salesforce app, the
That's
mobile
exactly
app,
right.
things like that?
We're 100% native to Salesforce, which means we're built right on the Force.com platform, and everything that we do works on their mobile device. You can imagine what we do is we link from an account right to a description of the kind of customer segment that account maps to, so that you can understand exactly what kind of a company that you're calling on. And then within that company, you might have 5 or 6 different types of stakeholders that you're going to have to sell to in order to move that buyer along the journey to a closed deal. And we have those profiles built right into Salesforce so that that sales rep can understand, am I selling to a chief information officer? Am I selling to a director of operations? Am I selling to somebody that's in security? And each one of those profiles will give a lot of insights to that seller as to who they're going to be dealing with and what their pain points are.
And what are some of the target segment that you guys provide intelligence for?
Yeah, so we're focused primarily on manufacturing companies and high-tech companies. You can imagine it's companies that have lots of different products in their portfolio, and they sell to many different types of industries or markets. So if you're selling to food and beverage and manufacturing, and you're selling to automotive and aerospace, that creates a tremendous amount of complexity for salespeople. So we build those profiles right into Salesforce, again, so that those sales reps can be better understanding of who that is. You can imagine where we fit in is that there's a tremendous amount of money being spent on marketing automation to automate the digital experience. What that means is there's companies like Salesforce with ExactTarget and Pardot that'll help move that buyer along their journey to get to the point that they understand what you do. And there's a tremendous amount of work that gets done to say, hey, our blog posts, our social media posts, our website, all of that content is very rich, so you educate prospective customers about what you do. But when your sales rep shows up, they need to take that journey along with that buyer to get them along the buyer journey to the sale. We don't want them to take a step backwards. So where we fit in is right in between that space of marketing automation and Salesforce.com, helping to make sure that those human interactions are just as rich as those digital interactions.
And the type of information you bring on, for either the persona or the market segment, what are some examples of what you guys show people?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So on a customer segment page, I'd say the most important thing that a sales rep needs to understand is what are the buying behaviors of that customer. For example, I used to work at a big Fortune 100 company, and we had a very complex buying process. We were a consensus buyer. That meant there could be 6, there could be 10 different people involved in a buying process. So your sales reps need to understand how complex that buying process is going to be, or else they could waste a lot of time spinning their wheels trying to figure it out on their own. So on that customer segment page, that's where you're going to find out what kind of a buyer am I dealing with, what are their buying behaviors, and what am I going to be up against. What they'll also find out is what competitive intelligence do we have. So if I'm selling to a tier 1 data center, who am I going to be competing against? And how do we differentiate ourselves against that competition? And then beyond that now, for that particular customer segment, now you've got your buyer profiles, your buyer personas. And for each buyer persona, I think the 2 key things that we put on there are, what's the pain that you can solve for that person? So if I'm selling to, let's say, a chief information officer, and I've got a killer solution that's going to improve the cybersecurity of a company, that's going to be something I'm going to talk to them about. But I'm going to have a very different conversation than, let's say, the director of IT operations. Because what that guy cares about is he's sick and tired of getting the phone calls nights and weekends and having to come back and leave the family to go deal with operation issues.
Right.
So what we want to do is personalize that discussion by giving the information on that page about who that buyer is and what makes them tick. There's a lot of buyer profiles that are out there on the market that'll tell you demographic data, how big the company is, how many employees there. That's not what we're trying to accomplish.
Kind of like D&B or...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we're not trying to replicate that. We're trying to provide a little bit of emotional intelligence. So what makes that buyer tick? What bothers them the most? What problems are they looking to solve? And then what products and offerings do we have in our portfolio that can solve them?
So are you guys native on the platform? How long have you been with Salesforce?
That's right. So we are 100% native. You can see from our screenshots up on the App Exchange that we are built entirely into Salesforce.com. We made sure that our user experience was very familiar to the salespeople. So our user experience looks exactly like Salesforce. We wanted the barrier to adoption to be very low. As salespeople, we want to make sure it's super, super simple for them to get to this content, to leverage this content, and to be more successful. The other thing that we made sure we did is we made sure that it was a mobile offering as well. So that voice of the customer feedback is an example. Again, super simple. They pull out Salesforce One Mobile on their mobile device. Takes them 2 or 3 seconds to pull up a record and to create a new record that they can inform others about what customers are saying good and bad about your offerings.
Okay. So if people want to get their hands on it and try it out, what's the best thing for them to do?
Yeah, so our website is hakaproducts.com, Haka products.com, and we're also available on the App Exchange. If you search Haka, Haka, on the App Exchange, you'll find 2 apps listed for us. Haka Connect is our flagship product, and that's where they can check us out. They can start a free trial right away.
Cool. Well, thanks for your time, Colin.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.